Okay, amazing. I mean, we have 3 minutes, but I'm going to let these guys get started a little bit early since there's no seats left. So, dang, impressive. So this is Daniel Jones and Tomasz Maj. These guys are going to be giving you a very interesting case study, but they're professionals, as you can see from the not contrasting at all vibes here. Absolute dream team. So take it away, guys.
Okay.
I'm surprised people weren't put off by the scary, like, AI-enhanced face earlier.
Yeah. It was heavily, very good. It was photoshopped a bit, yeah. I wish they put more hair on my head.
So, right, I'll kick things off. As you might have guessed, the topic is about generating more software faster, and we'll come back to that theme at the end. And this is really the story of some work that we've done together. One of us is an ex-McKinsey consultant, and the other works at a small boutique consultancy. I'm not sure if you can tell which one is which. But yeah, so I'm Daniel Jones, or DJ to my friends, because of the initials, not because of the raving. I'm not actually a DJ or anything like that.
I'm Tomasz. Tomasz is Tomasz. But if you're Polish, you can use one of the 5 versions of my name if you want. Yeah. But it's only for Polish people. It's an internal secret we have. Yeah.
So I work for a small consultancy, boutique consultancy, I think is the most flattering way to put it, called cinq. We're based in Northern Europe, and we do AI native transformation. So we come from a background of cloud native transformation, helping people with cloud, Kubernetes, all those kind of things. And we're seeing the same kind of patterns around transformation, and why adopting agentic coding practices and getting the most out of AI is not just as simple as like give people some Claude Code licenses. There are changes that need to happen around and alongside that. So we'll go into a bit of that in this talk.
So we'll talk about the background. So I'll tell you a bit about Odevo, so we're all on the same page. Then DJ will continue talking about the training, and then together we'll wrap it up with some measurable impact that we have had now in Odevo with this. So the background of it is Odevo is a residential property management company that has both owns property managers and also provides them services, which one of those is technology, right? And in the recent ranking, we are the 3rd largest private tech company in Sweden. So if you take Lovable number 1, there's another one in the middle, we don't talk about them, and then it's us number 3. So that's just how relatable it is. And we are global, right? We are the 3rd largest, and we offer the full suite. So we own the full entire value chain of residential property management.
And property management in this context is like, when you're renting a flat and you've got to pay some company like, £100 a month or whatever to like make sure the bins are in good order and the communal lighting and the HVAC works and the lifts and the elevators.
And many other things like that. The bills are accounted for and that nothing breaks, or if it breaks, it gets fixed. And the UK, of course, now it's all the fire safety, or in the US, it's elevator safety and all the others, everything around it. We own, as Odevo, the full suite of services end-to-end in residential property management.
Yeah, and it's quite important stuff in that, like, the kind of people that your end customers, your end users, like, some of them are volunteers. So having good software that works well makes their life a lot easier. They're often under kind of equipped for the job. They have to manage finances, and maybe they're volunteers. So if Odevo can do things really well, then there's a large scope to make lots of people's lives better and improve their living circumstances.
Yeah, so we're growing like crazy. We've been acquiring a new company pretty much every week. What we have to take into account, an M&A in our case is taking a company that's usually a father, a mother, a kid, and a dog that are a property manager, and we buy this at scale across the Northern Hemisphere, from the US to Europe and everywhere else. So we're present in the United States, Mexico, United Kingdom. We originally started in Sweden, and then we started growing, expanding towards the UK, United States, and the rest of the world. And we're right now focusing we're realizing we can't grow more time zones. It's becoming a bit problematic, so we're sticking to the ones we have, and probably will continue growing either probably north in some parts, south in others, or trying to bring everything together. So yeah, it's a massive, massive change. In 7 years, we've gone from 50,000 homes under management to 2.5 million, from 1,000 employees to 14,000 employees, and we continue growing and continue expanding as a company.
And all of those acquisitions and having different solutions in different places means that there's a really heterogeneous tech kind of situation. So the number of different tech stacks you have, like there's .NET.
If you have a tech stack, you think you have a tech stack, we probably have it. So we have everything. We even have some sort of, we use software that's completely, there's no UI to it, and you call a server, and it takes sometimes like 30 minutes to just upload information about it. It's also very outdated, heavily pen and paper industry. So in the UK, we still have a property manager will put how much he has to charge a homeowner association, how much money on a post-it, and those post-its tend to be lost sometimes. So stuff like that happens still today, which is really cool that the power of digitization in property management is massive. It's everything. There's a win and there's a case for all sorts of things, which will be very important when we talk about the impact of this training. But
so there's lots of different tech stacks, and because of the acquisitions, there's also a lot of different cultures. There's a lot of different processes, a lot of different methodologies. So when we're talking about Odevo, it wasn't so much that there's like one way of doing things and that's what needed to be evolved. There were loads of different ways of doing things, which brings us on to like the AI situation when we started this journey.
When I joined in 2024, so we had some things in place. We've been already using GitHub Copilot. Our developers were using GitHub Copilot. We've built our own chat solution based on OpenAI's API, which is Odevo GPT. The main reason for that was that we process a lot of private, sensitive data, customer data. We did not want to sort of have our employees go wild and upload information that shouldn't be uploaded to different types of chats. So we built our own solution. And somewhere we were having a bit of Claude islands, we would say. Like there would be one or two devs who got very excited, decided to get a license on their own and use Claude or other tools. But it was just sort of like an island here, one guy there, nothing serious. And there wasn't really a massive adoption of AI in the devs job, right? So we only had around 30%, and it was mostly GitHub Copilot. When we talk about time to merge, things took a lot of time. When it came to PR sizes, usually big, once a week, sometimes more, even less often. And of course, the devs it was quite slow. So we did invest a lot of time, as when I joined in 2024, to systemize a way of working around flow, around maximizing and sort of the speed and making it transparent, because most teams did not even know they were underperforming. Everything was kumbaya. Everyone's like, hey, let's go. And we created that transparency, which then helped in adopting AI and the trainings, making them more successful, right? We had to create that knowledge. And that was something that really made the future journey much easier, because we already spent a year and a half bringing modern ways of working to the teams across all these tech stacks, all these cultures. So that was an important investment in the beginning. But yeah, we were okay, but it wasn't really like a massive. So a nice spoiler alert. Yeah, disruption is coming, and we already knew that AI is going to be a big deal. Like this was still pre-summer 2025. We again had more and more of these islands, Claude Islands, popping up, and it's nice, a Claude Island. That would be a nice place, or a scary place for some maybe. But we saw that there was more and more talk about it, and we realized we had to partner up with someone to help us in this journey, to help all the devs. We made a very bold statement that we're going to train every single developer in our organization on the same way around AI. So we created an RFP with AI. We sent it out. I made a big mistake of putting on LinkedIn, I am looking for an AI training company. I got a lot of 15-year-olds telling me they have 25 years of experience doing AI training. That was weird. Or of course, I had several people who told me they've been doing Agentic before Agentic was a thing. So I got around 80 submissions, or people reach out to me. I had to sort of simmer down and tell them to relax. We got 10 that we really looked good. We ran several talks with them, and we landed with
an idiot with a mustache.
That's exactly what we called him.
Wearing,
couldn't remember his name. What's his name? Oh, it's the guy with the mustache, yes.
Yes, wearing ridiculous clothes as well. So that was summer last year, and it seems like ancient history, but that was like before, Opus 4.5. It was before spec-driven development was kind of becoming popular. That was like September when I think SpecKit came out. So you folks were quite ahead of the curve in seeing that this wave was coming.
Yeah, and our main takeaway was, with AI, bad things get worse and good things can get better. So we really wanted to have someone who could help us in that journey. And yeah, it wasn't easy, right? We really did land with 3 companies in the end that were very close, but again, the mustache.
Exactly.
It was the mustache.
You want to win more business, get good facial hair. That's one option anyway. So, let's talk about training. I probably should have given some kind of like photosensitive epilepsy warning. So if anyone is like sensitive to flashing lights, or you've got a stinking hangover, definitely not me, you might not want to look at the brightly coloured slides. So I'm going to talk to you now about the training, how we did it, and some of the things we did before the training to make it more successful. This is not as a sales pitch. This is so that you can go and do this inside your organisations and think about the kind of fundamentals that need to be in place to do this well. So the first thing, told you it'd be bright. First thing that we did is a process called discovery. So for folks who aren't consultants, this is where you go into an organization and you figure out what's the current lay of the land. And this is a really important thing to do because of this very authentic Dora report quote. Might be paraphrased. But in the 2025 Dora report, there were a couple. There was one that was, I think, August-ish. It made the point, after looking at a couple of thousand companies, that if you are not doing software development well at the moment and you throw agentic coding at the problem, things are going to get worse. You're optimizing a system, you're making one part of an interconnected system go really fast, you will expose bottlenecks elsewhere. If you're doing software delivery well, and you start adopting agentic coding, then things will go much faster, and you'll be on a hockey stick of like exponential performance. The tricky part is that nobody knows where this balance point is. Like, how crap do you have to be?
It's right there.
Is it there?
Yeah,
how bad at software development do you have to be to go slower? Like, are you in a good place or not? And as an industry, we haven't quite figured that out. But the kind of things that we needed to look at across the various different teams and cultures at Odevo were things like CI/CD. Do you have a platform? This is a current bugbear of mine with I shouldn't tell too many tangents about other customers, but if you don't have a platform, like you can't ship code reliably and quickly, and then you're just going to generate all this code and have nowhere to go with it. Do you have tests? If agents can't run tests to find out they've broken your software, don't be surprised when they break your software. If you don't have coding standards, if the humans in your organization don't agree what good looks like, then there's a very low chance that an agent is going to be able to produce code that your team is going to approve of. So there are lots of things that are worth looking at, and the optimist in me likes to think that maybe this is another opportunity as an industry that we get to look at those fundamentals and go, look, we really need to improve these.
And we made it very clear in the RFP that we do expect a discovery session that we will pay for, because it's very easy to make assumptions without understanding. So we really wanted our partner to get to know our company better. We've had some bad experiences when companies came in with all these assumptions which were not right. So we really wanted the partner we're partnering with, this guy, to get to know the people that will do the training for, to know the company. This was a very important part of making this a success, I think.
So yeah, if you're going on an agentic coding journey in your organization, make sure that you're bringing attention to these fundamentals and like raising the flag if they're not good enough. The next thing that we did was workshops, and we got lots of people in the fancy Odevo office, which is Spotify's old office, so it's quite cool to be there. But doing things in person both to, we did the initial set of training in person, but also we did workshops to explore how people felt about all of this. So hands up if anyone knows what liberating structures are. Panos, you know, you're just lazy, can't be bothered to put his hand up. So liberating structures is like a menu of different meeting formats and ways of facilitating conversations that tend to subvert power dynamics and make sure that idiots with loud voices like me don't dominate an entire conversation. So we used a couple of these in person to ask people, you know, what do you feel about the upcoming AI training that you're about to do? What emotions do you experience? Are you scared? Are you worried that your job satisfaction is going to go? Are you worried about the not being motivated in the future? We also did a round of questions using a format called TRIZ, which apparently, any Russian speakers in the room? It's some acronym for the creative theory of problem solving. So we posed a question to the group, which was, imagine that you work for a property management company called Odevo, and they're about to hire 200 junior software developers that come from a country and a culture where they always say yes. They never say no, they don't push back on anything, and they never sleep. They've got an intravenous drip of Red Bull, and they're just going to code all day and all night. How could we make sure that this is as big a disaster as possible? And then everybody contributed their ideas and chatted amongst themselves. Next question was, what do we do here that's a bit like some of those bad things? And then you see everyone kind of looking at each other going, can I say that the testing's not good enough?
Yeah, it was really cool that it was also unanimous across all these different tech stacks, there's cultures. They started saying, you do it? We also do it. It was like a lot of these like Spider-Man memes situation. It was really, everyone's like, oh my God, you don't test? We don't either. Why? And then, yeah, it was... Yeah.
And this is important in terms of reducing reactance, reducing people's hesitancy, reducing the fear that they have, getting them to start thinking about the solutions they're going to need to make this work better. So this is, if you take anything away from all of this, really get people on board and get them speaking to each other face to face, empathizing with each other, find out what their fears are so then you can have a more sensible conversation with them in the future.
And we also did a pilot version of the training as well to learn to get all the little things that could not go right in the big session. So we did a pilot version that was on November 11th, a very important date. It's Polish Independence Day, so please remember. 11/11 is Polish Independence Day. We did a pilot, and that also helped, right? Because we did it in a smaller group. We realized all the things that could go bad or right or whatever, what to watch out for, and that made it then the big one where we had 80 people much more successful, I think.
Cool. Yeah, I learned lots of important things about Poland when working with Tomasz, one of which is don't go out drinking with a tall Polish person the night before delivering training or delivering a conference talk. The Jägermeister last night might have been slightly surplus to requirements. Anyway, we're already kind of 15 minutes in, so we probably need to speed up. Something about training technique. If you end up going through training, delivering any of this yourself, or like trying to upskill your peers, a really powerful technique is, after just getting somebody to do an exercise, is what did we just do? So we would deliver a training module, get them to do an exercise, and we'll talk about the syllabus in a moment, but draw up live. Okay, what did we just do? Okay, so you installed Claude. Where did that come from? Okay, you typed in a prompt. Where did that prompt go? And then it called a tool. Okay, where do tools actually execute? How does the model decide which tool to use? And drawing this up piece by piece means that you can leverage different types of mental machinery that we have. So it's got social importance because people remember sitting there awkwardly going, oh, I've got to answer the question because the idiot with the mustache is asking. We're not going to go on until we've answered. People contribute things. Funny things happen. It's a visual way of representing stuff. So it really cements people's knowledge in a way that just doing the exercises doesn't. So I would really recommend trying to use a technique like that when you're...
And make the workshop in person. That was also a massive thing. We really brought everyone into the office in person. We fed them, of course. We did give them fika, which is a big thing in Sweden. We fed them. We then had an after party, everything around that. But by bringing them into the office, telling them the first half of the day, no laptops, you were going to talk it out, that also made the training stick more, right? Rather than them being, of course, doing multitasking and not listening to the guy with the mustache, putting them in the office to see each other, to meet each other, to put a oh, it's you, okay. That also made a massive change. And we pushed for that heavily, that it has to be in person, it has to be in Stockholm.
Cool. So the syllabus then, in terms of what we actually taught people, really fundamental thing, teaching people about context, context management, and maximum effective context windows. If you don't understand that the more you add into your context window, the more off the rails the LLM is going to get, then people start doing daft things like adding every possible instruction for every possible scenario into their agent's MD, which has been shown in a couple of academic studies now to have negative impacts. You're better off having no instructions in your agent's MD than lots of them, for example. We also did exercises with old models that are easy to get to hallucinate and to do prompt biasing to demonstrate people the failure cases. I shouldn't go into tangents. We don't need to train people on how to use coding agents on the happy path. It's when it goes wrong. Like when they work, it's magic, and you just get working code out at the end. So the important part is teaching people about the failure modes, and that's what the first module was all about. There's a big jump between using something like VS Code GitHub Copilot and Claude Code for a lot of people psychologically. Like, when you're in VS Code, you choose which files are open and you can look at them anytime you like. When you're using Claude Code in a terminal, then all of a sudden, the agent is doing stuff and it chooses what to show you. For some people, that was quite a big jump, so that's a thing to be aware of. We talked to people about MCP and spec-driven developments and eventually got onto multi-agent workflows and things like Gastown, now Gas City. Which, by doing all of those things, they then had the building blocks by the end to think about how this would be applied to a team process, not just to an individual. Another thing that we did that was quite important is we did not deliver this training all in one go. So there's a journey that people need to go on, and we did weekly half-day modules. And then at the end, so, okay, you've just learned about MCP, why don't you go away back to your desk, install the Jira MCP, ask it, like, can you figure out what ticket I should do next? What do you think of the acceptance criteria? And then allowing that to be pushed back and find out whether this stuff works in real life, not just in a training exercise.
And make sure you tell IT ops that people will be installing software on their laptops. We lost like 15 to 30 minutes in our trainings because people couldn't install Docker. That was great. Yes, win.
And another important part of this psychologically is people, like the training exercises gave people a guided tour, you know, of like, here's Claude Code, here's how skills work. But it's when they then go back to their own desks and make their own minds up and get the chance to play with it on their actual production code bases, that's when people start to see the power of this kind of stuff rather than just when we're showing it to them. Yeah. So, should we get to the...
Impact. So, of course, there's impact. Massive. Everything up, everything, all the good things up, all the bad things down. But, yeah, but it really did, we do see after we finished these trainings in February, so we trained the whole entire group. Then I did a little more with others. But in general, by mid-Feb, we were finished with our core group of developers. And we are seeing a massive, we are seeing great things, right? So in general, we're seeing AI adoption now at around 94% based on, did you use AI in your last 10 PRs? 94% said at least in at least 3 or more. 60% in 10 out of 10, and then a bit less, but only 6% of our organization did not use it. And it's more interesting why, rather than do it, right? So now we're doing interviews with that group on this. What's happening? Why aren't you using it to make your life and a general, like what's blocking you? We are seeing massive increase in time to market, so we are able to push things faster. We are able to build things smaller and better quality. And of course, yeah, it's also the whole merge and releasing things makes it much easier. So we're seeing that. And if you look at the PR throughput, and it's constantly increasing, right? So it's transparent. We've also built a series of dashboards, and every dev can see every other dev's where they are working, which repos they're working on. We're making it super transparent across the org, across all teams. We've invested in that as well. So we have this data on a click of a button. You can even chat to it. You can have conversations. So it's very easy to find what's working, what's not working. And of course, we're seeing a constant increase in it. I think, giving people tools, we would probably see similar trends but I don't think they would be as impactful. And that what the training did. It enabled that they're more intentional how they use it, and they use it, I think, in a much smarter way. So people are not, pumping everything onto Opus 4.7 just because they're all experimenting, they're playing with things. But all these metrics are great, but I think the biggest impact of our AI transformation was in this. You can, if you find enough smart people in a room, hopefully all of them will start, maybe not as exponential in this case, but there should be an increase. Now the tools are getting better. What we saw, and if you go to the next slide, was the boldness. People are not afraid to try things. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for me. If anyone asks, how do you measure a successful AI transformation? It is, how many more bold things are you doing? How many experiments are you trying out? Are you actually trying to do a full end-to-end agentic workflow? So we did a very bold move. We took a platform that we've been building for 8 years. It wasn't a great success. What we did is we took it and we rewrote it. End-to-end rewrite. It took us, with the support of external experts, but we rebuilt it feature parity 1-to-1 in 3 weeks. So something that we've built for 8 years, we were able to rewrite in 3 weeks, feature parity 1-to-1, and now we're continuing to build it, have a team dedicated, much smaller than we had before. So that was 20 devs building it for 8 years. Now we have 4 devs building it with AI. That was a bold move. Trying to build a mobile app in 3 days, we tried that. Did it work out? Not so great, but we tried. So we're doing a lot of, also, if you remember when I showed you the map, right? All that fragmented software, all countries are doing different things. It's also because of regulation, of legal stuff, everything. It's very complicated to build a single piece of software for all those markets. But now we're trying. We're going to try to build a dedicated platform that will be able to tackle all the needs of all the markets in a single source, in a single place, and then of course customized with AI for their different needs. But that would have never happened last year or without this feeling of boldness.
We've got 4 minutes and 45 seconds, and we've got quite a few slides. So with this in particular, we did the agentic coding training. People were using Claude Code on an individual basis. One of the teams that Tomasz mentioned took a step back and was like, how do we reimagine our software delivery process? Like, working on individual stories just doesn't work when you can go so quickly with coding agents. So what they did was an entirely different approach that was AI first. They spent 2 weeks talking about product requirements, speaking with their mouths, having everything automatically transcribed, from which they then went on to get agents to create a product requirements document, and they really battle tested that. They thought it through very deeply. They sketched out the entity relationships, all the business logic, get that domain really well defined, then ship it off to agents to split into like a task plan, kind of like spec-driven development, but like upper level of abstraction, if you like. And now developers pick up a couple of epics a day, and if one developer wants to use BMAD, sure, fine. If the one wants to use SpecKit, fine. Some people are still vibe coding. But they each have their own way of working once they pick up an epic, and they're no longer doing human code review. So they will look at the code themselves. They're not writing code anymore on that team, but they will do like 7 or 8 passes of agentic code review before then raising a PR, which they will then self-merge. So they don't have the bottleneck of other humans reading code. Like, humans doing static analysis of code is a silly idea in the first place. So they've gone fully AI native in all of the steps. And trying to use the existing, Scrum, Kanban methodologies you're going to hit bottlenecks very, very quickly. So once you've got those practices in place, then it's time to reassess your SDLC and how you go about doing things.
They're sharing this, right? So they're again sharing. We're making it more like we're using them as a lighthouse. Everyone can go and join, talk to them, see how they're doing. So it's also a massive transformation effort.
And talking about sharing, we've also talked about this. We do a podcast for work. Tomasz has been on it, and so one of the developers on this team. So the latest episode is all about this process and their methodology. Speaking of which, the impact on people.
So this is the Dominic, who's a would try to pronounce that last name. It's a
Go on, how is it done authentically in Polish?
Warhawski, very nice Polish last name. He doesn't speak Polish though, so he has a hard time. Yeah.
Yeah, so Dom, he was an AI skeptic. When we came to the training, he had previously got ChatGPT to write code in isolation, non-agentically. And was like, this is rubbish, it's never going to work. And also had like quite legitimate ethical concerns about AI, how the models were trained, the energy usage and all of that kind of stuff. It was when he had the opportunity to play with Opus 4.5 back in November and the freedom to explore that's when he realized that the previous beliefs weren't true, and that when running agentically, these tools can create good code that he would be proud of. You will find in a lot of organizations people that tried VS Code GitHub Copilot like a year ago, and it was rubbish, and they're like, oh, this AI thing's never going to work. I tried it once, it was crap, and it's never, ever going to be good. You will find people like that, and they need the opportunity to see the current state of the art in order to change their minds.
Yeah.
And like Dom on the podcast was saying, I haven't written any code at work for 4 or 5 months. What was interesting is he's doing it for fun at home. Just like you might buy furniture from IKEA, but then do carpentry in your spare time. That's what the craft has turned into for him.
And then we have Daniel, which is part of our DevX team. We have a dedicated team that focuses on developer experience. He also hasn't written code, and he's building all the tools to improve the developer experience in our organization. So they've built a massive amount of tracking and telemetry and observational tools, and he's doing that all without writing code. And he was one of our top skilled, top performers. I think he said he's increased his performance by 2,000.
We got 30 seconds.
Oh shit! And then we go to the final colleague that I want to mention is Nicholas. We invested in a train-the-trainer program from the start. We made it very clear we want to build this capability to train on AI and then develop our training, continuously evolve it internally. So Nicholas became a trainer. He was also a high performer, already heavily doing things he was also been educating on like Ralph Wiggum loops and all that. He's always been a heavy user of AI. By becoming a trainer, he now goes to the remaining sort of companies where we still have developers that weren't part of the initial one and training them, telling him about his experience. And that makes it much more real. I mean, mustache and tracksuit and all, yes, but if it's a real person that understands the industry and can share their own real experience from working at Odevo, that makes it even realer, right? That makes it more, some people don't like to be taught by others. Do we have to end?
No, but we do need to hurry up. So the future,
let's go.
Yes, and the way that we see things.
So the future, we have now shifted. We realized that by investing in our engineers, we've forgotten about another very important part of the organization, which is our product colleagues, designers, BAs, product managers. So now we've taken the training that worked very well for engineers, and we shifted towards, we've adjusted it, we've pivoted a bit for our product colleagues.
And you will find that the product folks become the next bottleneck. We've seen that in lots of different places.
We're also seeing that massively. In this, Dominic has, I think he mentions it in the podcast. So this is, and then the next step is, once we train our product managers, we want to now train an AI and how to use basic things with Cloud Code and others to our remaining employees, which is pretty interesting. It's 13,000 people that we need to educate on basic use of AI. And we're seeing people are already using it. We have financial managers or accountants using Cloud Code to build local small apps for themselves. So we want to help them. We want to structure that with training as well.
Got 3 more slides, so you will get lunch soon.
And then, one thing we've also noticed, and I hear more of that today, I heard it, like we are having some of our engineers saying, I can't turn it off. It's 6 p.m., 7 p.m., sometimes 1 a.m. The dopamine rush is real. So now we're also having sort of discussions with them, like, hey, put it away. Like, go enjoy life. Go outside. I mean, in Sweden, it's not a lot of sun, but go outside.
I would love to tell you about Skinner boxes and the psychology behind it, but the compulsion is a real thing. Also, this hasn't happened in Odevo's case, but Lauren Peet, CEO of Multitudes, did some research that showed that in a lot of organizations, people are working overtime because of the increased feature pressure of, you've adopted agentic coding, you should be doing loads more stuff, you should be getting lots more done, and people are now actually doing overtime because of that perceived pressure.
Yeah. So our goal and our ambition is to make everyone a builder. We want to pivot from software we build for our opcos to opcos build software with our support. We're making that shift. We really believe everyone at Odevo will be a builder, and we really want 14,000 people to be building stuff for themselves.
And in the past, like in the 70s, if you wanted a new business process, right, you got some paper, you made a form, you told people about it, that's how you changed the business. Then our software developers got involved, and to leverage the power of computing, like we had to devolve all of that to engineers, and then you couldn't make any changes yourself. And this got worse in the cloud era when everything was distributed and complex. Now we can re-empower business users to solve their own problems. Like some of the product managers are using Claude Code now.
We're vibe coding and Lovable and other tools as well, and building things that are used every day. So,
and what we see is not that software development is going to go away, not that we're going to end up with software developers needing to be made redundant. Because of those bigger, bolder changes that people are now empowered to make, we see a world of more software that is more bespoke, more usable, solving individual people's business problems, rather than kind of big, slow software that takes years to develop.
Those complicated Excel models that used to be on someone else's hard drive, we're moving that to vibe-coded solutions that are usable, used by actual users in our organization, which is super exciting, but also a bit scary. So, yeah, cool. A fun journey ahead of us.
If you, do we do questions, or have we run over that? Yes, sorry, lunch. There's a very stern shaking of the head at the back. If you can spot me, I might be hard to find, then happy to talk afterwards. There's our LinkedIn QR codes. But other than that, I'll shut up and say thank you, and we can go into more detail afterwards.